Hey, do you want to know about what's going on in real estate in the MatSu Valley? Well, I got information about what's going on in the MatSu real estate market, looking specifically at the single family, the land, and the multifamily. We'll jump into that in just a second. Before we do, though, my name is Jamin Goecker. I'm an associate real estate broker in the state of Alaska. My mission is to help you to build an intentional and significant legacy for yourself and your family by coaching in real estate. And today, we're going to be taking a bit of a deep dive and looking into what's going on in one of the biggest real estate markets in the entire state of Alaska. Without further ado, let's jump into it. All right, now the first thing we want to look at is what's going on in the single family home category, and then how many properties we actually have available on the market, because the inventory does a lot of explaining as to what's going to happen and why things happen the way they have in the market. So what we see for the number of properties that are available right now, there are actually about 522 available, and there's 411 the year before. Now, looking back to about 2019 and before that, we see that normally we'd see about 720 up to about 815. So that still is a good indication. That still shows that we're a lot lower for the inventory that's available compared to what we had a couple of years ago, but we are moving in the right direction. But also, just to give you an idea, there is actually a lot more properties available in the MatSu compared to Anchorage, because Anchorage really gets credited as kind of being the largest real estate market, and it's really not. It's really the MatSu Valley that's where the most homes are currently available. 522 versus over in Anchorage right now, it's about 360. So it's really not even close. Now, one thing I do want to point out, we don't know how many of these properties are actually physical brick and mortar properties, because some of them are they're new construction. Well, a good portion of them could be new construction. They haven't even broken ground yet, but the builder just listed the property where they posted a bunch of pictures from projects they did in the past and said, well, this is what it'll look like once we break ground, once we build it for you. So they don't have any skin in the game just yet, which is fine. I get that. Makes sense on a business perspective. And also, it kind of throws our numbers off here, because, you're sitting here as a consumer wondering, the 522, how many of them are ready to move into right now? I hazard to guess there's probably a good portion of them that aren't actually available. But still, this is significantly higher option-wise for the number of properties that are available compared to other places like the Anchorage. Now, the next thing I want to look at is what's going on as far as the number of properties that have actually sold for the single-family category. We see this time last year there's 139, and this year 165. So, bit of an uptick for the number of properties that are actually selling, even with the inventory still not being where it normally is. And also, let's take a look and see how many we would normally sell around this time of year. And we see that it really does range anywhere from about 140 to about 187 on the high end. So really what we're seeing is about 165. That's more or less kind of par for the course. That's right about where we would expect it to be. So there still remains about the same amount of demand as there was before. It's just the options are just not as many as we had before. All right, so we have the same amount of demand as we had before, but we have a smaller pool of options and inventory that's available. Would you like to hazard any guess as to what's happened in the average sold price? If your guess is that the price has gone up, you would be correct. It's gone up by about 3.5%, which is kind of a good, healthy appreciation rate that you want it to be going up. I know homeowners, they always want to see like this double-digit increase for the average sold price. And that is just not something you really want to see, because it's not sustainable. And once you've got the volatility of things going up drastically, there's a good chance they can come down drastically just as quick. So you really want to see like a good steady increase like this of about 3.5%, maybe 4% is really kind of what I like to see. But yeah, we've got about 3.5% increase going from about 398,000 this time last year to about 412,000 this year to date for the average sold price. Now, the next thing we're going to do is look at what is going on in just raw land in the MatSu Valley. And the reason we're looking at raw land is because this is where there's new construction going on in the state. It's probably going to be happening in the MatSu Valley. You wouldn't guess that there's actually a continued decrease for the population for the entire state if you lived in the MatSu, because within the region itself, you have a lot of people kind of moving to the MatSu, or people are moving in from out of state to settle down in the MatSu and then work over in Anchorage. So if there's any development going on, it's going to be in the MatSu, and if there's development, land is going to be pretty important, so that's why we're looking at it. Now, looking at the land that's available, this time last year, there's about 660 pieces of land available. This year, it's about 620, and normally we'd see about 1,100, maybe about 1,200 or so, about 1,200 pieces of land that are available. So that's a decrease. Historically, looking at the past couple of years, though, that's kind of par for the course, but historically you can see there's obviously less available than what we had before. The next thing we want to look at is the number of pieces of land that have actually sold. So this time last year there were 62, this year it's 52. Not a huge surprise there. That's still right on par for what we'd normally see around this time of year. Prior to COVID, we were seeing about 50 to about 58, so that does put us right in that range for what we would expect, at least for the month of October, where we have the most complete information. Next thing we want to look at is what's going on as far as the average sold price for the pieces of land here in the MatSu Valley. Now, this encompasses a lot because you got everything from the little postage stamp piece of property all the way up to like hundreds and hundreds of acres. And that's obviously going to be a huge price difference. So we're trying to take an average of some very disparate variables here, pieces that are going to be way off from each other. So it's kind of difficult to get a real clear snapshot. So these are going to be indicative of direction for value. It's directional. It's not going to be telling you exactly how much values have gone up or gone down. But that being said, this time last year, we were sitting about $82,000 was the average. This year, it's about $84,000. So just a slight increase of about 1.5%. That's about what I would expect. Pieces of land, they usually just don't appreciate at the same rate at all as what you're going to have for land that's actually developed. Even land that's been cleared and has utilities and all that put in, it does make an impact. It just does not compare to having an actual finished structure on it. All right, we're going to be checking out the multifamily market in just a second and then going into the summary. Before we do, though, just wanted to make sure, if you're not aware, I do have a relocation guide for those of you who are considering moving to Alaska. So if that is something that would benefit you, do feel free to go to my website, register, and put relocation guide in the comment section so I know what to send you. And also, if you're looking for a real estate agent to help you purchase something in the MatSu Valley, or really anything in South Central Alaska, Anchorage, Eagle River, Wasilla, Palmer, anything in South Central, feel free to hit me up as well. Obviously, if you want to do something like that, I want to be your agent. That should kind of go without saying, but I'm saying it anyway. Now, let's go ahead and finish up today's video looking at the multifamily market. Looking at the multifamily market, we see that this time last year, there were 36 properties that were available on the market, and now it's 38. So just a very, very small increase for the number of multifamily properties that are available. Normally around this time of year, prior to COVID, we'd see that it'd be right around like 56 up to about 85 on the high end. So we see we've still got a long, long way to go as far as the inventory that's available to getting back to pre-COVID years. I'm not real confident we're really ever going to get there without just increasing, without the size of the population just ballooning to the point where we can get to those numbers again. We'll talk more about that in the summary, but yes, that's what we're seeing for right now. Slight increase, nothing to write home about from a historical perspective. Next, we see that the number of properties that have actually sold from multifamily went from 5 this time last year to 8 this time this year. So, slight increase for the number of properties that are actually selling. That's kind of a good indication. Looking historically, we would see about 9 to about 11 multifamily properties that would be selling. So we're more or less looking at the lower end of where we normally are, even though the inventory is really a fraction of what it normally was. Last but not least, we see the average sold price for multifamilies in the MatSu Valley went from about $580,000 this time last year, year to date, to about $583,000 this year. So very, very small increase of about 0.5%. That is a kind of a small incremental increase there. I don't think that's necessarily the value that we've seen it go up. I think more what that's an indication of is that is that we do have kind of a settling in of the market right now, because the previous year we saw the values shot up by nearly $100,000. It went from about $494,000 to $580,000. So it's a solid about $90,000 swing increase there. And I guess we're just kind of settling in at this point, and that's kind of just the new baseline that we can see. Looking back to 2020, just to give you some reference on how drastically it's gone up, the year for 2020 was about, the average sold price, for 2020 year to date was about $421,000, and now we're sitting at about $583,000. So that just gives you an idea just how drastically the average sold price for multifamily properties have increased in the MatSu Valley. I think we're seeing a lot of people move there either from Anchorage or from out of state, and they're just like, hey, I don't want anything to do with Anchorage. I'm okay with a commute, and I'm just going to go to the MatSu Valley where the rents are lower, the cost of living is going to be lower, and just commute to Anchorage where the wages are higher. And I think that's really what's driving the increase for the average sold price for multifamily properties in the MatSu. All right, wrapping all this up for you. Really what I'm seeing is that if I'm a buyer, I'm looking at this market, what I want to do is really just kind of get myself in the door as soon as I possibly can. The reason for that is there's talks about the interest rates potentially coming down. Now, we don't know if that's going to happen or not. If it does happen, though, there's a very good chance it is going to be a bloodbath all over again, like what it was back in 2020 and 2021, where everyone likes to just remember, 2.5% interest rates or 3.5%. Who could possibly sit on the fence at such a great historic time and everything? And they like to forget, hey, we were making I think my record was like 11 offers for one buyer, for one couple trying to get them into a house. We eventually succeeded, but it was brutal. We'd have to go $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 over the asking price and compete with upwards of like 10 or 12 other people, and really just compete like you would not believe in order to get a property at the low interest rate. So if you are on the fence and trying to decide what to do, hey, maybe, I can buy right now, but maybe I'll just wait and I'll just do the smart thing and wait till the interest rates come down. First off, we don't know if they're going to come down. And secondly, if they do come down, it's probably going to be a bloodbath. So it's a better idea if you can afford it to get into a property now, and then if the interest rates do come down, you just refinance and just sit back and relax and watch everyone else lose their mind in the ensuing chaos that's going to unfold. If you're a seller, the big takeaway is this is not the market we had a couple of years ago. We can still get a great price for your property and everything. That's a given. We can do that, but really we just have to make sure that the property looks good, has good solid pictures, good marketing presence, and we're doing all the basics that we have to do in order to make sure that you get the highest value for your property. No longer can we just put in minimum effort and just say, well, let's just put it on the MLS and see what happens. We're going to get multiple offers anyway. That's not the market that we're in anymore. We really do commit to the fundamentals. We did the entire time. We weren't the agents that were just throwing something against the wall and putting in minimum effort. But we have to commit to the fundamentals, make sure your property looks as best as it possibly can. If you are an investor, best thing I can say, make sure that your numbers actually do balance out. Just because it's a multifamily does not mean it's necessarily going to be a good investment for you. So this has been my market update, talking about what's going on in MatSu Valley. And if I haven't said so already, if you're looking to buy, sell, or invest in this area, obviously I want to be your agent. Reach out to me on my website down below, and be happy to hear from you and see how best I can help. Thanks for watching. See you next time.